So today's Dhamma talk will be given by my puppet, Mr. Teddy Bear. I am not speaking, I am ventriloquizing. My lips are not moving. I don't think I'll make a ventriloquist. Remember the old joke about the ventriloquist who was in court being sentenced for robbery, and the judge gave him 1 year in Bali in a top resort with all expenses paid. He's a ventriloquist. In other words, the judge didn't give him that sentence. He said it himself. Anyway, back to real life. So we're ready to go, Brandon? Yeah, okay, good. So welcome to another talk at Jhana Grove Comedy Camp and Meditation Retreat Centre. So today I wanted to talk some more about mindfulness. Just one of those things I said the other day, that it's more so important to add that beautiful thing called kindness onto mindfulness to make it kindfulness. But it's an important part of meditation, and especially the first few days, you can't expect to be very mindful. Instead, you'll be sleepful in the first few days. Now, that is natural. So you can understand what mindfulness is, sometimes by its opposite, when you're sleepy, when you're dull, when you can't see very much or hear very much, and when you try and meditate and you fall asleep. Now, it's important to understand just how mindfulness is actually created and how it's strengthened. Because sometimes that people say, oh yeah, we must be mindful. But how do you become mindful? What am I supposed to do? And so many people try to be mindful. And they use all these tricks, like in the old days, that you were encouraged to sit on the edge of cliffs. So, if there was any dullness, you'll fall over and kill yourself. And apparently, people said that worked. There was this monastery in Laos before the Vietnam War, which, that was not that far away from Wat Pah Pong, where I was living, and had all these stories. It's a very great meditation monastery, apparently. And for training, the abbot would take the new monks on a long walk through the jungle. Now, if you've been to Laos, Laos is incredibly hilly. The mountains are really steep. And so take up and down the mountains, through the jungle, sweaty, dirty, exhausted. And late in the afternoon, just before twilight, they'd come to the clearing in the jungle where there was these amazing, beautiful, tall trees, hundreds of years old, magnificent pieces of timber. And way up into high branches, the monks had built little platforms just the size of your cushion you're sitting on right now, but with no railings on the outside. And there was a bamboo ladder to go up. And the abbot would send every monk to a different platform, hundreds of feet up in the air, take the ladder away and say, I'll come back tomorrow morning. So there you were, exhausted, tired, no tea, no coffee, no shower, a couple of 100 feet up in the air on a platform this size all night with no way down except the fast way to your death. And they say that many, many monks got deep meditation after that experience. At least that's the ones who survived said that. The ones who failed and fell off, we don't hear about them. And in other places, you've heard that some of the Zen monks in the Zen monasteries, they use a big stick. When you're meditating, they walk behind you so they don't know when they're coming behind you. And if you're sleepy, if you have no mindfulness, whack on your back. Now, that's one way to overcome sloth and torpor and to become mindful, because I remember it worked for me once. I didn't get hit, but I was on this Zen retreat in the north of England, because in those days, any retreat I'd go on, I didn't care what type of Buddhism it was. You were so desperate to meditate. Any retreat, any place, any teacher, you'd go on. So I think it was a Sunday morning, and you're really tired, getting up too early. And I was Saturday morning, the first night of a weekend retreat. And I was sitting there, dozing off. But as I said last night, I always had very good karma. Yeah, I was dozy, but my good karma was the guy sitting next to me was more dozy than I was. So he's the one who got hit first. And right next to you. And when you heard that whack on the back, I was totally straight. I had no sloth and torpor at all. I was terrified. So that's one way to become mindful, terror. But it has its disadvantages. Again, when I was in Hong Kong with this, in Hong Kong, this was Korea, 1 month afterwards, in Hong Kong, when I was teaching over there was many monks from mainland China. And they were telling me the story that there was one Zen monastery. They had a retreat, typical Zen retreat in mainland China, People's Republic. Mainland China, sorry. And the master came behind and hit this woman on the back with a stick, to wake her up. And you know what she did? She called the police and had the monk arrested. It was against the law. So this monk was taken away in the police van. Welcome to modern times, Buddhism. You can't do that anymore. So yes, that would work, but not really in the way that we want to meditate, because that's just creating mindfulness through fear. And so that's not the way to do it, because it cannot be sustained. So the other way of developing mindfulness is the way I have been teaching each one of you, through stillness. And to understand how that works, when you get a framework, you can understand, now I can understand how this thing actually works, how stillness does create mindfulness, and how effort actually reduces it. So how this works is the two parts of the human mind. This is one way of dividing the human mind. There's many other ways, but this is a way which is useful for the purpose of understanding how mindfulness works. Those two halves of the person's mind is what I call the active doer mind, the one which is thinking, planning, initiating movements, reacting, commenting. That active part of your mind I call the doer. If you want to know in Pali, that's called sankhara. The passive part of the mind, the one which just feels, which can hear my voice, which just knows how you feel right now, that passive part of the mind is the second part, which you might call, the consciousness, feeling, perception. That's the passive mind. It just receives data, but doesn't do anything about it. It just knows. Otherwise called mindfulness. Now, of those two parts of the human mind, I'm sure you can recognize from your own experience, the active part of the mind gets the first choice of any energy. That is so prominent amongst us that we do before we know. And we do so much that only the dregs, the leftover energy, is available for the knower. That is why you get mentally tired. I'm not talking about physically tired. That's a different thing altogether. Mentally tired because you've been doing so much, thinking so long, struggling so hard. Your poor mind has just run out of energy. This is one of the reasons I ask you, if not ask, order you to sleep a lot in the first couple of days. And don't fight that mental tiredness. If you fight the mental tiredness, what happens? You're just wasting energy again. You're just fighting, and that's more doing. In other words, not releasing any energy to go into the knower. Instead, you just are still. Make peace. Be kind to your sleepiness. I know that yesterday I was meditating here in the afternoon and somebody was snoring. If you're that tired, there's nothing wrong with being tired, but just go to your bed and snore in there. That's what beds are there for. You know, beds were made for sleeping. If you want to sleep, sleep there on your bed, not in here. And don't feel guilty about it. If you're really sleepy, I need to go to sleep. These days, as a monk, I'm not afraid of sleeping any place, any time. And usually you don't need to sleep. Usually I wake up really early in the morning, nice and fresh. But there are times when, that sometimes I can understand why. I've been really busy, traveling around the world, losing sleep. But there are other times, there's no real reason for it, but I really feel tired. And there's something going on in my body, some sickness or something happening which I'm not yet aware of. And I just, if at all possible, I just go to a room and lay down for maybe an hour and have a really nice nap. And when I get up afterwards, I feel so much better. So much better that I can do all my work really well. If I didn't take that sleep, I'd be dull all day and hardly get anything done. And I know this because I practice this. I really listen to my body and to my mind. And if my mind tells me, look, go to sleep, take a break, have a nap, and I can physically do it, I follow that. I don't think, I shouldn't go to sleep right now. This is the middle of the day. I've already slept. No, if my mind says that, I follow it. And that keeps you really, really healthy. But what is actually happening here is many of you, your brains are exhausted. It's just a function of modern life. So, relax. Take a nice sleep. Now what happens? Because sleep, being still, not fighting, is doing nothing. The energy, the natural energy which is running through your body and mind, instead of all being going into doing, fighting, struggling, you know what that's like. That takes huge amounts of energy. Instead of going in that direction, it's freed. You're not doing anything. So it all starts to go into just knowing. Instead of going into that first half of the mind, which is a black hole, it just sucks up all your energy, doing, struggling. You stop that. It's called letting go, not doing things. And all the energy starts flowing into knowing. You literally wake up naturally. The energy in your body-mind starts going into the passive part of the mind. And I know that from bitter experience. When I was a young monk, this is another when I was a young monk stories. Not like these days. These days, monks and nuns have it easy. When I was a young monk, we didn't have cushions to sit on. It's true, we didn't have cushions. But no. We used to get up at 3 o'clock every morning. There was no choice in that. 3 o'clock every morning and go and sit in this hall in the jungle. No fans, no air cons. It was steaming hot. And of course, because we would do this regularly, that was a sign that the mosquitoes would come out for their breakfast. They also used to eat many times a day. So you'd have all the mosquitoes buzzing around you, eating you. And you also had, that's why if you see me, in those days I was really, really thin because the mosquitoes ate the rest of my body away. And it was really hot, it was stuffy, I hadn't had enough sleep. And I hadn't even got into telling you the food we used to eat those days. I told those stories before. It was disgusting. Anything which slithered on the jungle floor, that's what we ate. It was yucky. But I was always struggling with sloth and torpor in those days. Every morning. And if I want to, I can have an enormous amount of will. But when I exercised that will, you'd fight, you'd struggle to keep awake. Sometimes you'd break through sleepiness. And afterwards, I couldn't stop thinking. I was just restless. Thinking. Oh, calm down. And as soon as I calmed down, I was half asleep again. And I could never find that middle way between sleepiness and restlessness. I was either dull or thinking too much. For years, I struggled like that, until the Buddhist way of doing things is not to use force, but to use wisdom power. You just stand back, what's going on? Why? Why am I sleepy? And when you asked the question, the answer was really obvious. Here was a young man made in England, not in Thailand. I'm not used to that type of weather. And I think even if the Buddha was born in UK, he would also have sloth and torpor in India at that time. I was sleep deprived. You're trying to get by on 4.5 hours a night. That's what tough guys were supposed to do, but you ask any doctor, that's called sleep deprivation. And I was malnourished. So all those little things, it's obvious why I had sloth and torpor, but nothing to do with me. So then I stopped fighting it. So it's just natural. It's just anyone would have sloth and torpor in those conditions. So I stopped fighting it, and then an amazing thing happened. When I stopped fighting it, I said, okay, go asleep. It's all right. Be kind. It's just natural. And when I stopped fighting it, the sleepiness got less and less and less and less. You started waking up. You were aware. And as you became aware, you weren't thinking. Because you weren't fighting, because you weren't exercising this doer, this fighter, it means when the mist of sleepiness disappeared, you didn't have that restlessness anymore. You were clear and peaceful. And then I sort of realized what Ajahn Chah had been saying all along. Everyone is stupid. I was one of the most stupid ones. You have these great teachers who give you such excellent advice. You hear it, but you don't understand it. If you understand it, you don't put it into practice. So his advice was, he said, if you want to have a strong body, exercise it. If you want to have a strong mind, keep it still. And I was doing the opposite. I was keeping my body still by sleeping. But I was exercising my mind all the time, which meant my mind got weak. But if you keep it still, you don't fight. Just make peace with the sleepiness, with any defilements. Don't fight. Don't exercise the doer. Then what happens? Your energy goes into knowing. Your mindfulness arises and starts to get strong. So that is why on the first few days of a retreat, I don't tell people to fight. I tell people to relax. I'm not doing that to make this a popular retreat center, to suck up to the disciples so you don't ask for your money back. No. You're doing this because this actually works. You relax in the first few days. You do hardly anything. You're still. And just bear with the sleepiness. If you fight it, you're delaying progress. Bear with it, and it just disappears by itself. It's incredible just on these retreats. Those who've been here before know this. The first few days, you don't want to meditate very much because you're tired. You go for walks, have cups of tea. But then afterwards, you start to say, you want to get up early. You see in the morning time, every morning, more and more people getting up earlier and earlier and earlier. And in the evening, they stay up after the Q&A, longer and longer and longer. They're not trying to be smart asses. They're just who they are. It's just you feel like you want to meditate some more. And it becomes a natural inclination to stronger mindfulness and also more tendency to want to meditate. So the mindfulness is the awareness. This is actually how it's built up, through stillness, through not doing things, which is one of the reasons why we try and arrange this place so you have to do hardly anything at all. There's nothing for you to do. Sometimes that really hurts people. There was a Singapore retreat last October, and they were sort of doing okay. but then they didn't like the breakfast. They wanted to have some Singaporean breakfast. So they managed to get some stuff in, which is a Singapore BF. They managed to get some stuff in. They started making porridge every morning. And the people who made porridge, you've never seen them have so much energy. They were doing something at last. At last I could do something. And something I like, cooking and then eating afterwards. They were so happy. And they wouldn't get up early in the morning to meditate, but getting up early in the morning, 3 o'clock to make porridge, no trouble at all. Which brings into the other part of mindfulness, is enjoyment and happiness. That's another reason why I deliberately tell jokes and make funny statements, because when you do laugh, that is a boost to your mindfulness. You do literally wake up and you do become more aware, which is the other part of mindfulness. It's not just stillness, it's happiness. Also makes you much, much more aware. There's nothing worse than being so dull and depressed and say, oh gee, how many more days to go? How many more times do I have to hear the same old story? How many? Oh, God. And there, that negativity obviously leads to low mindfulness. You know, you're not engaging in life because, you know, you don't like it. So the more you're engaging in these things, the more you like it, the more strong the mindfulness becomes. So this stillness and happiness are two major contributors of your mindfulness, which is why in some retreats where there's no humor at all, where you're not allowed to smile, otherwise you're taken into a room and just beat the smile off your face, you find that there's not a strong mindfulness in those retreats. A lot of control, but not mindfulness. So the mindfulness is actually the awareness which starts to come up. Now that's where it starts. You know, you literally feel you wake up. And the signs of the mindfulness beginning to become strong is when you don't need to talk to people because there's so much beauty outside. You know, you see the valley, you see the shoreline in the far distance. You can actually see the stars, and they become more and more beautiful as the retreat goes on. Yeah, the full moon was beautiful, you know, the last couple of nights. But as that moon sort of starts to disappear, the stars are incredible. And the more mindful you become, the more you can see of what's happening. And the more you see of what's happening, the more joyful it becomes. This is the second simile of mindfulness. Again, an old one, which I teach on every retreat, but for those who haven't heard it, it is quite profound. It is the story of me walking up the hill, from the bottom of the hill on the Southwest Highway up to the monastery. It's just over 2 kilometers long. And this experience occurred after 7 years I've been living in that monastery, driving up and down, up and down, up and down in a vehicle. This one morning, it was a beautiful morning like we've been having for the last few days. You know, not too hot, not too cold, sunny and bright. So I asked my driver, can you please let me out at the bottom so I can walk up? You know, these days I just can't do that anymore. People say, no, we're not allowing you to walk up. Who knows what might happen to you? No, I want my car to make good karma. So please sit down, I'm going to take you up to the top. It's really strange. As a senior monk, they just won't allow you to walk anywhere anymore. They said, no, get in the car. I said, no, I won't. I said, get in the car. You know, some years ago, so we didn't have so many people staying in the monastery. So I decided to, this is Bodhi now, to try to wash up after lunch. And I went in there was a few Thai people there were helping washing up. And I just took a tea towel and started wiping the dishes. They never said anything. One of the Thai girls took the tea towel and pushed it away. You're Ajahn Brahm, you don't... you can't do anything these days for yourself. You know, sometimes it's even hard to open a door for yourself. But it's good fun. So anyway, I had the opportunity to walk up that hill. And it was in the early days. Now what happened was really surprised me. It blew me away. Because I could not recognize that hillside. It looked totally different, as if I was walking along another road. And that really surprised me because I've been living up here 7 years. How come I didn't recognize the road on which I lived? And it was so weird that I stood still. And then the hillside changed again. Standing still looking, I saw things I'd never ever noticed before. Even going up and down for 7 years. Little rocks, wildflowers, just the way the stream in the bottom of the valley just fell over those rocks. And the different types of trees there. He saw so much more. And it looked incredibly beautiful when I stood still. It was a wonderful sunny day, and I'd never seen that hillside look so gorgeous. And what is happening? What's going on? And I thought, first of all, what did I have for breakfast this morning? Were there any magic mushrooms in there or something? Because that's what it was like some psychedelic experience. The grass, was just greener than you'd ever seen before. And it was like fluorescence, like you were on some sort of, mind-altering drugs. But then, I used my science to realize what was happening. It had an obvious explanation. When you look through the window of a speeding car, light goes through, your iris, hits the back of the eye, the retina, is a chemical reaction there, and then sort of that information gets transferred to the brain. Looking through a window of a speeding car, the chemical reaction doesn't have time to complete. You only see a fraction of the image before another light comes into the eye, dislodges the first image and gives another one, and then another one, then another one. It goes so fast, no image is fully formed. When I got out of the car and walked, my eye had much more time to form a more complete image. More of the scenery actually registered on the back of my eye. There were literally more trees, more blades of grass, and the colors were more well-formed. They were deeper, richer. But when I stopped, that was a magical time. Because stopping and just looking, the whole image had chance to properly form. With all the blades of grass, and the greens, the yellows, the browns, whatever color it was, that was rich. Never seen it so rich before, because the chemical reaction had the full time to complete itself. I've never seen such colors before. They were always there, but I was going too fast for them to register. And of course that became a great simile for how stillness creates mindfulness and beauty. The faster you go, the less you see, the less you hear, the less you taste of the food you eat, the less you feel. And you think, yes, I'm aware. I know the street on which I live. I know my cottage. I know Jhana Grove. I'm the caretaker here. But if you slow down and stop, you'll see things you've never seen before. Blades of grass, rocks, weeds, whatever it is. Little stones in the dry garden. And they look so much more beautiful than they've ever looked before. The colors are richer, deeper. You see more, and what you see is far more delightful. Welcome to Power Mindfulness. Your mindfulness has now got strong enough because of stillness to see more, hear deeper, feel more, taste more than you ever felt before. That is where you know this mindfulness is starting to grow. When the food tastes incredibly delicious. Bianca is a good cook. The people who come here are good cooks. But if you really want to get into cuisine, make your mind still, and everyone is like a 5-star Michelin chef. Even the stuff you get out of the can in the morning, the baked beans. Wow, I've never tasted baked beans like this ever before. Wow, these are 5-star baked beans. Whatever it is, tastes delicious simply because your mindfulness, your awareness is stronger. As it gets stronger, it's much easier to focus. It's much easier to keep in the present moment, because with the strength of mindfulness comes a happiness. And when you're happy, who wants to go anywhere? Who wants to think about the future when you're having such a great time now? Who wants to worry about the past when, oh, this moment is just so peaceful and so nice? Who wants to go off into sexual fantasies? Do you go off into sexual fantasies? Be careful. Some monks, or maybe nuns, can read minds. Be careful. No, we wouldn't do things like that. I always say, if any monk or nun can read a mind, they wouldn't read your mind. They've got something much better to do than read Pulp Fiction and trashy novels. But anyway, you don't want to do those things because you're happy. If the mind is not happy, it will always seek its delight, its joy somewhere else. That's the only reason why we're restless, why we keep thinking about the future or the past. You know you don't have to think about the future or the past. You know that, but you do it. Why? Because you're bored and got nothing else to do. That's why we go into the fantasies, the dreams, anything just to escape, because we're not happy where we are. If you're happy where you are, all restlessness is gone. So with the stillness, gets the energy to the mindfulness. You're not doing things, you're not fighting. The mind becomes bright, it becomes happy. And all these problems which stop mindfulness really happening, the restlessness and the sloth and torpor, they're gone. Naturally. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to force them away. This is just wisdom power. It just happens naturally. After a while, you wake up. After a while, it's so easy to meditate. You're happy being here. Big smile on your face. The food tastes good. The beds are just so soft. The scenery is delightful. And even people laugh more at my jokes the more they get mindful. At the end of the tree, everything gets happy and fun. So this is what mindfulness becomes. And once you have that mindfulness, that awareness, which is bright, unforced, with happiness, then all this other part of meditation is so easy to do. It's like you have at last a supervisor. A supervisor of your meditation. You can actually see what's going on. And all the stupid things we do, which stop, the awareness and the kindness, opening up the lotus, all those silly things, you see what you're up to. You say, oh, come on, stop it. What are you doing that for? The awareness is like turning on the lights so you don't fall over the obstacles, you don't bump into the wall. You can see where you are, see where you're going. So the mindfulness can actually see exactly what's happening, so it's so easy to avoid the obstacles to deep meditation. So as you become still, the mindfulness increases. As the awareness increases with happiness and brightness, not forced, natural. You tend not to sleep so much. You want to meditate more. You want to sit and walk meditation. You just want to just be by yourself with a cup of tea, just looking at the valley. You just don't want to talk to people. And this is a natural, beautiful way of developing this silence and this mindfulness. You're just so happy with yourself. And as that develops more and more, it's so easy to open up more and more that lotus. Number one, you understand what this kindness is. It's amazing. When you talk about kindness, compassion, people say, oh yeah, I know what compassion is. Ha, 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 ha. All those assumptions which we have, that's where you've got to really be careful. Do you really know what compassion is or what kindness is? The definition of compassion is what relaxes the body, what relaxes the mind. So if you are meditating and you're mindful enough and you find that you are becoming more peaceful, less problems, less struggle, you have just been practicing compassion. That's what compassion means. But if you're becoming more tense, if you're more disappointed, more struggle, more frustration, you haven't been compassionate at all. You'll be doing the opposite. Ill will, struggling, wanting to be somewhere else, not being kind, not opening the door of your heart to this moment no matter what it is. So one of the things you are going to learn here is actually what compassion really is. And it's not what you think it is. You learn from your own experience, whatever relaxes the mind and the body, which makes it feel more at ease, everything gets very, very loose. That is what compassion is. Ill will, whatever makes it tight, tough, disappointed, frustrated, that's ill will. So here you are learning the compassion. The mindfulness is great. The stronger it is, the clearer the feedback. I like that word feedback because this is where you learn yourself what works. What is compassion? You're aware of your body. Next moment, is it more tight, more tense, or is it more relaxed? So that gives you the feedback. And you will know if it's more tense, that was ill will, struggling, wanting. Second noble truth, meditation. If it's relaxed, you feel so much easier, more at peace, more delightful, that was compassion. Well done. Try that on your body to learn how to relax your body, and that's where you learn what compassion means. And then you apply it to your mental world. Be kind, relax this mental world. Just like sometimes people's bodies are so tight and tense. Sometimes their minds are so scared and frightened, they're always controlling. I don't want to fall asleep in public. I'm supposed to be a great monk. What happens if I fall asleep and somebody catches that on the video and they put it on YouTube and my reputation as a meditation teacher will be busted. So don't be afraid. Actually, I remember once when I was a young monk. And we were ready. Well, everyone used to fall asleep every time again, but I remember this one young monk. I think it was German. A German monk, and he was really nodding. And one of the other monks got up and got a camera out and took some shots of him. And he was so angry. I think the last flash after 3 or 4, he woke up and he saw what was happening. He jumped up and he grabbed the camera and exposed all the film. That's crazy. It's okay to fall asleep. We just didn't want that recorded on camera. Anyway, back to you. I won't record you on camera if you fall asleep, so don't have to worry. So don't be afraid. Don't be mindful from tension or from fear. Just relax, and the mindfulness gets really strong. And the nice part of this, I should have mentioned, is it becomes so pleasant, so delightful. When you relax, don't you like going off to where do people like to relax these days? They like to go to some beach under a nice umbrella, with sort of a fruit juice, not a martini, I hope. Just watching the waves and just, I'm relaxed at the resort. And you sort of take a photo and send it to your friends. Look at me. Here I am at the beach. No worries, nothing to do. And that costs a lot of money. And also you don't get relaxed, just even getting there. You know what it's like going through airports and just getting everything tested and goodness, I just go through this all the time. And in some places, especially in the United States, they don't really know what monks are, so they see someone in robes and they think I'm a terrorist. What do you got under those robes? And there's a hassle going and waiting for the plane to take off, and there's always something happening. Actually, I told this to the monks that when I came back from Canberra on Thursday, just before this retreat, I had the best in-flight entertainment ever. Because the guy sitting next to me, I was a window seat, and it was only a small plane, someone sitting next to me, and then the aisle. The guy, even when he got on the plane, he was already angry. And then he started drinking so many beers. In the end, he really started getting violent. And the senior flight attendant had to come up to him and say, "Sir, we don't allow that sort of language on this aircraft, and don't punch the seat in front of you." And he said, "You just go and do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do." So he's a really violent passenger. And, because I'm very calm and peaceful, at least I could calm him down so he didn't punch me. It was really interesting. It was great entertainment for the whole flight. And eventually he got arrested when he got to the to Perth airport. So there's 2 policemen waiting for him. So, it's really boring going on fast, but every now and again you get something interesting, like sitting next to a terrorist or someone who's violent. Well, you know what it's like. You have to go all those places, and when you get there, shopping and stuff like that. But this is actually real retreat. This is really getting away from it, because you're sitting here more peaceful, more delightful than if often some resort somewhere. And it's just so cheap and so easy. And why are you more relaxed here? Because nothing to do. You've got the food, you've got the place to stay, you've got some nice people to be with, nice entertaining jokes from Ajahn Brahm to keep you, stimulated every now and again. And that just means that, what's the latest? I told this later. What time is it? Okay. The latest joke, another bad joke, but I haven't told this before because I got this from Canberra, about a guy. This was a guy on, I think, the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You know that show? He got up to 500,000. One more question, and he would get 1 million. And the question was this, and they asked him, which of the following birds does not make their own nest? Is it a magpie? Is it a pigeon? Is it a cuckoo? Is it a starling? Which bird doesn't make its own nest? And he's got one lifeline to ring a friend, so he calls his friend and said, which of these 4 birds doesn't make their own nest? And his friend said, cuckoo, cuckoo, say cuckoo. So he said, cuckoo. And all the bells rang and things fluttered down. Yes, the correct answer. You've won $1 million. And after the show, he rang his friend up and said, how do you know the cuckoo was the right answer? He said, well, everybody knows cuckoos don't live in nests, they live in clocks. That was a silly joke, but you see, it gives you some entertainment at this comedy club called Jhana Grove. And anyway, there we go. So what mindfulness? You get happier. And it's not just for that. It's also when you're more delighted, you're not so rested. You can sit down here and you can actually feel your body because your awareness is really, really strong. And you know exactly which way it needs to be moved. You can actually feel all these different parts of the body and you can relax it deeper than you've ever relaxed it before because you're aware of your body. It's amazing just how many people are not aware of the body. Again, when I was a young monk in Thailand, we used to go on arms round with no shoes on. That was the custom in Thailand. And this was through the forest. And through the forest, there was always these old stumps of this and that. And the Western monks had their feet covered with Band-Aids because we were always stubbing a toe here and cutting ourselves somewhere else. The Thai monks didn't have that. When Ajahn Chah saw those, all the Western monks, including mine, having all these Band-Aids on, he said, you Westerners have got stupid feet. It was a wonderful way of actually saying it, because you always think that I am stupid or I'm stupid up here. But actually we're stupid down here. We had stupid feet. In other words, we were totally unaware of where our feet were going. The mindfulness was not there. We were always thinking about dependent origination or the meaning of life while we were stubbing our toes. And that was, the lack of mindfulness. And so as you meditate more and more, you stub your toes less and less because you're far more aware of what's going on. You're not so much in your head. You can actually feel your body. And it's great, being a monk who's meditated for such a long time. I know my body really, really well. And you can feel it. You've got all these dials and you know exactly where something it needs a bit of attention or where something's a bit sick or something is unbalanced. So it's really great for your health, just knowing exactly what's going on in your body. And that's the mindfulness. It means you can really relax. And because you can relax, you can sit still for a long time. That's why you can sit for hours. Not because you're forcing yourself, not because you're trying to beat the Guinness Book of Records for the person who sat the longest without moving, or beat your own PB, We don't do those sorts of things in meditation, but it's just natural. You sit because your body's really relaxed, and when it's relaxed, it's delightful. Why do you want to move? But it also means you can relax your mind. You're so relaxed you don't want to go anywhere. You're just happy just being here. Moment after moment after moment. So content you don't want to be anywhere else in the whole world. Just sitting here on your meditation cushion with your eyes closed. Nothing missing. You don't want anything. You don't need anything. Isn't that gorgeous? There's no bliss greater than just being content. Happy to be here. Nothing you need at all. Peace. And that's called the meditation. The mindfulness can do that. It can relax you so much that you're so happy you don't want to go anywhere or do anywhere. And when that happens, it's not stable state. It gets more peaceful every moment. It gets more still. And this is where you get into the deep meditations. Sometimes you feel you can't be more still than this. And then you go to the next level of stillness. Wow, this is as peaceful as it gets. And then it transforms into something which is more peaceful. Wow, peace, deeper than peace, deeper than peace. Wow. Has anyone studied maths here? Because I remember at maths at university, I always thought infinity was the biggest number in the whole world. Until in maths, that's called alpha null. Alpha 1 is infinitely bigger than infinity. And then there's alpha 2, which is infinitely bigger than the infinity that is bigger than infinity. There's so many different levels of infinity, and that's actually proved. It's true. You can't argue with it. Counterintuitive. But there's numbers bigger than the biggest number in the whole world. I love saying things like this to confuse, but that's absolutely true. Anyone who does maths, know that. So this is like peace. We think this is the deepest peace we can ever get. And then it gets deeper to the next level of peace. And this is where the meditation takes off. And you're just sitting here perfectly still, perfectly content. I don't need anything else in the whole world. Because you're perfectly still, opening up the door of your heart, mango after mango after mango falls in. That's the jhanas, enlightenment, the whole works. Sit here when you're perfectly content. If you want something, it doesn't work. If you're feeling it perfectly content. I've been content for a long time now. Why is nothing happening? That's not content, is it? That's sneaky contentment. You've got to be totally content, not wanting anything in the whole world, totally happy here. Isn't that enough for you? Just to have those moments. Have you ever had those moments before? Maybe sitting, just on the next to the stupas with a cup of tea and just, watching the sun go down. Perfectly happy. Not wanting anything else in the whole world. Just to be here with a cup of tea, watching the sun go down. All the problems in life, financial problems, family problems, health problems, world problems, monk problems, nun problems, committee problems, all the other problems, they just vanish and you're free. Just happy to be here. Isn't that bliss? You'll have moments of bliss like that. When they come, enjoy them to the max. It means that when you sit down and meditate, you'll have the same feeling. Just happy to be here. I don't want to get enlightened. I don't want jhanas. I'm just happy to be content in this moment with this wonderful, delightful, powerful mindfulness. So peaceful, so nice. This is good enough for me. From that base, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then your mindfulness gets to superpower mindfulness. If you thought you were mindful before, now you're really getting into the juicy stuff. Really mindful. So you look at a brick. Wow. So much going on in one brick. Have you ever seen the 1,000 colours in a brick? That's only starting. 1,000,000 colours. To see the whole depth of a brick. It's just like a landscape in there. And this just opens up to you as you get superpower mindfulness. So if you see somebody just standing in front of a brick going, wow, look at that, that's amazing. Please do not call the people in the white coats to take you away to the mental hospital. No, you are getting somewhere in the meditation. And I can't resist the story I tell every time. You know it's coming. Of superpower mindfulness. A true story which happened in this facility some years ago when I had an amazing meditation. And after meditating, coming out, just superpower, everything was just so beautiful and brilliant, like fluorescent. But the only reason I got up because I really had to go to toilet. So I went to the toilet in the men's toilet opposite the laundry. I think it was actually the middle cubicle there. And I sat down and did my stuff. And after doing my stuff, I made a mistake or whatever, but I just happened to look in the toilet bowl. Wow. The different shades of brown. It's not just one brown. There's dark browns, there's middle browns, there's light browns, and everything in between. And the way they're arranged, just in one little ball, it is a work of art. And the way they're all put together like a sculpture. And I haven't even gone on to the fragrance yet. The fragrance, oh. I'm not exaggerating, this is true. I'm looking in there and I never seen such a beautiful piece of shit in my whole life. It was delightful. And I even thought at the time of actually taking it out and hanging it on the wall. These days, I'll take it and give it to Lee to auction. It's so gorgeous. You know the best part about it, it's always a little bit of mucus on the outside, so that makes it so sparkle, like a diamond, like an incredible jewel. It was glitter. But it was only because of my training, because I had a lot of training. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I did let it go. Press the button to let it go. Oh, that's very tough. I try. Should I? Oh, I don't want to. It's so beautiful. Oh, okay, renunciation. It's amazing what a monk has to renounce in his life. So if ever you are waiting to go to the toilet and the cubicle is engaged for a long time, you know why they're there. They're not constipating. They're just going, wow, look at that. That's amazing. Whoa, I've never seen something. But actually, that's what happens. The mind gets so strong, so powerful in mindfulness, everything looks beautiful. Which is why when you sit down, this body, so beautiful, you can let it go. And this mind, so delightful, so much pleasure, so much happiness. You can't come out of meditation. You're just having too good a time. And as soon as everything disappears, you get nimitta comes up. Wow, it's incredibly beautiful. You've never seen anything so beautiful ever in your whole life. This beautiful light which comes up in the mind. Wow. So sometimes, you do, as I said yesterday, you say, can I take any more beauty, any more pleasure, any more brightness? You always can. Have that confidence. You can take incredible amounts of beauty and pleasure and joy, the human being. And it doesn't do you anything bad at all. It always enhances you. Health, happiness, and also insight as well. And if you can get that degree of happiness, of course you get into jhanas very easily. Go right inside. Right, because it's so delightful, so beautiful. You just stay with it for hour after hour. If you can stay looking at a lump of shit for about 15 minutes, imagine your mind, it's so easy to watch. It's much more beautiful. And this is how the mindfulness gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So just to sum it up again, it's all coming from stillness, from relaxing, not fighting. So don't try and force the mindfulness to be strong. Don't do it out of fear, out of control, or out of just desire. Just let go, relax, and you'll find the mindfulness grows by itself, naturally. Your job is to be aware enough to be kind. The kindness will create more awareness, awareness more kindness. They'll support one another during this retreat, and you become more relaxed, more happy, more peaceful. And the meditation happens in spite of you. And all of you who think, oh, I'm a good meditator, or I can't meditate, not so much go, Mayang, put it aside. This is just what happens when you are still. As Ajahn Brahm said, if you are still, through stillness you create a strong mind. Strong mindfulness, strong bliss, just what happens. So please don't fight. Be kind, relax, let go. And you just go on this wonderful journey. It gets more and more peaceful, more and more happy. No more frustration. No more striving and getting disappointed. At last you realize, just let go. And everything you ever wanted, the reason why you strived is achieved when you stop the striving. And just bear with the restlessness or the tiredness for the first few days. It will disappear as long as you don't fight it. Be kind to your mind. It needs a break. So just say, mind, okay, whatever you want to do today, it's fine by me. Whatever you want to think, whatever you want to do. Isn't it wonderful that for once you're not controlling your mind? You're giving it a break. Your mind says, at last, this woman is not telling me what to do or what to think. At last, this man is not controlling me. Then your mind will respond. If you're kind to it, it will be kind back to you. So there you go. That's the talk on mindfulness for this morning. So just go away and don't do anything. And have fun. Very good. Oh, is there any questions before we finish? Going. Good. Okay. We do have interviews now, but on the interview list, just out of compassion for me, just don't put, one at sort of 9 o'clock and the other one at 10 to 11, with a big gap in between where I've got to wait for you guys. Just put it one after the other, after the other, after the other. So that, if it means that, so if there's only 4 or 5 people, then I can get a bit of a meditation in as well. Is that clear? Yeah, okay. Okay, so those who have interviews, I'll get the stick out to make sure that I interview you properly. So they're called, not interviews, interrogations. No, I don't do that, obviously. So don't be afraid. If you want to talk about your meditation, please come up. And have a nice morning. See you later. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, yeah. Do.